What's happening, Vintage House? This is your main man Mega in studio at the WNUR studios for another episode of Vintage House. It is a special night, as it is every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Central Time. Tonight is special because I have in studio with me DJ Daryl Mellowman, newly appointed resident DJ at Le Nocturne, and joining us virtually, the producer of several producers of an award-winning documentary known as the Woodstock of House Music that has been setting screens on fire across the country. They're going to tell us a little bit about each of their respective journeys, what Black History Month has in terms of special meaning for the work that they're doing. And then, of course, we'll get into some philosophically groovy questions. And, of course, great music, culture, business, history. This is Vintage House. Shout out to Lauren Lowry, super duper producer, and my classmate and friend and marketing maven, Pam Taylor. Greetings. Thanks for checking in. ILLINI. That's deep. That's groovy. That's hot. I love it.
Stars when you shine, you know what I feel. Sit up and pine, you know what I feel. Oh, freedom. I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm
Mega. It's a M night. We got Mega and Mellowman, and then in the mix with the documentary, super duper documentary producer Rodrick Wimberly, coming up with a sit down. Stay tuned. It's Vintage House. Go ahead, get it in, get it in.
another classic episode of the Vintage House Show, the premier talk show documenting the business and history of house music.
Maybe one more. It's a banging set. I'm loving it. Thank you, sir. All right, all right. Look out, look out. DJ Daryl Mellowman on the deck. Vintage House, Wednesday, February 23rd. The main man Mega coming up. We've got Rodrick Wimberly, producer of the Woodstock of House. And wrapping up a fire set, DJ Daryl Mellowman. Yeah, yeah. Break it down, break it down.
You are listening to the philosophical grooves of DJ Kevin Mega McCall, the main man Mega.
trying every day. Trying to make things right with no solution. Problems seem to steer the way. Talking heads with no solution. Feels like every time I turn around. Feels like everywhere I touch the ground.
Yes, we can say it. Yeah, here we go. All right. What a fire set. We just completed a special Black History Month 25 plus minute set with DJ Mellowman, the new resident at Le Nocturne here in Chicago. Rodrick Wimberly, our other guest, is giving it up for you. And we're actually going to go to Rodrick and get this discussion started, because Vintage House is not just about the music, but it's about the business culture and the history of the music, the movement, the feeling that is house music. And one of the things our guest tonight has done is to epically capture one of Chicago's famed events that has really helped to propel house music into the next level as it relates to festivals, as it relates to the producers of this festival, and as it relates to house music. And I'm not going to tell the story because I wasn't necessarily a part of the piece that was compiled, but certainly as the host of the Vintage House, I had a little something to say about this incredible project. But I'm going to leave it to the man himself, Rodrick Wimberly. Join us as we talk about not only the Woodstock of house music, but also talk about what Black History Month has meant, uh, or the opposite, really. What has your endeavor meant to Black History Month this year in particular?
Well, it's a blessing to be on. Thanks, Kevin. I know people are gonna be mad at me, cutting in from Mellowman to talk to me. So I gotta apologize for that, but we won't belabor the point. We'll be fairly quick. It has been it's a blessing to be on. Obviously a fan of you guys, you and Lori. So it's been a blessing to be involved in the house community. And this particular movie was just it was an act of love, really. I'm from Chicago, of course. I'm here and grew up here, south side of Chicago, south side, and just was captivated by and fell in love with the music, the energy of it, the love, the lyrics of it. It was just this frenetic energy at the time that was like nothing else. And so I got caught up in that as maybe about 12, 13. Went and got my first turntables from Loop Electronics down on State Street. There was a Technique SLB 100s, I think. They had there was a belt drive turntable. And so from that point on, it started and it created this love affair that I have with house music. And so I'd spoken with some people about just this great love fest that we got through the Chosen Few Picnic. And so every year we get to see just real Black love on display. It is, as I told people, it's a real life Wakanda. And you come in, no matter where you're from, and you leave saying, with abundance, as one of the people in the movie said, a family. And And so as we were talking about it, looking and seeing just how Chicago gets the reputation of being such a violent city, we thought that I was talking with one of my best friends, and he told me how important it was and how great it was for us to film this. We needed to tell the story because the story of Chicago is pretty much maligned, and so we wanted to share that. And the chosen few DJs, Wayne Williams, who created the chosen few, and the rest of the crew, Alan and Jesse, the brother Andre Tony, Terry. It just was an amazing thing that they said let's do this, and we have been ever since. We've been working on this project for about this is 6 years, so we finally were able to get it done, and people were everyone were playing it. Thank you for all the house lovers. They're loving it, and people are really talking about the historical perspective of it, and I think that's what drives your discussion about Black history, because it is Black history. It's Black history. It's the history of challenged people, marginalized people, oppressed people, not just African Americans, but those in the LGBTQ community. And so all of that gave this richness that created this genre that is, I think, the third most popular genre in the world. Are you able to hear me? There we go. I'm having some problems. I can't really hear your audio right now. I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me see.
How about now?
There you go. I got
All
you. All
right. We were talking about it being as impactful as a $3 billion industry in the promos leading up to this. What I'm curious about is the economic dimensions that you were able to capture in talking about the Woodstock of house. How much impact has that had on the city of Chicago, to your knowledge?
Well, in terms of just the financial, if you're talking about the financial aspect of it, I think part of it, and so let me give you a widening view. So as a documentary, you have an idea, you have a premise for the story, and you write a script, and you have an idea on where you think it's going to go. But with the documentary, the stories take you where it takes you. And when you start speaking to people, interviewing the various people, for example, when we were interviewing the chosen few, for me, one of the issues that I saw that I really had a problem with was just how much money is being created in the space of electronic dance music that owes its origin to music that was created by Black teenagers on the south side of Chicago, and how that community has been able to just really monetize that to the point where they're making billions of dollars in that subgenre without, to me, really recognizing and paying homage to the people who created the genre and the art form of house music. And that was an issue for me, because you have these great pioneers who are never on the Forbes top DJ list, the top 100, right? The very people who created it, Black and brown people, really, are nowhere to be found. And the normative, the heterosexual white male, has kind of dominated it. And so that was an issue for me, but it didn't seem to really be that much of an issue for the chosen few. So I kind of let go of that issue of it, but I really wanted to get into the inequities, of the economic inequities of more or less what I consider to be an appropriation, yet again, of another Black created musical form, just like blues, just like jazz, just like rock and roll, rhythm and blues, just like hip hop, really. That appropriation.
I've got to interject here,
Yeah,
Rod.
sorry.
You've obviously noted the trend that continues. How do we break this cycle? Because clearly, as you noted, it simply continues. A newer genre of music born in the 80s, and here we are 2022, and we see the same pattern. How do we break it?
You know, that's a very complex question. I think one of the major things right now that's of great concern to us is just the longevity of it. Um, as you know, with other genres of music, money kind of talks, and one of the problems is that we don't have self-contained industries. So we don't have the black record companies. We don't have the distributors. And you'll have someone, let's say, like when it first really started coming out, Trax Records, Larry Sherman was just ripping people off, like left to right. I mean, literally taking people's songs and just pressing them. And so I think we have to really support the industry more and really further, black companies to really take this and run with it. I think that we're, like for whatever reason, we're not very giving economically for the very art forms that we've created, so that we could keep them and keep the essence of them and continue those essences.
So you're absolutely right. It's a complex problem. There's not an easy solution, but certainly the ecosystem of distribution, labels, publishing houses, all of those elements certainly would make a difference if there were ownership there. I'm going to toss it over to DJ Mellowman, who we just had on the decks. Wanted to get his perspective because he's actually stepping into a residency at Le Nocturne. I don't know that club's ownership composition is anything different than what we've been talking about, but yet he's inside there. He is in one of these Chicago venues that certainly through this pandemic has been paramount to keeping house music vibrant, and even the chosen few DJs I think did their virtual festival there 2 years ago. Talk to us, DJ Mellowman, about what your residency means in the context of Black history.
Well, basically, it's really given me an opportunity to be able to bring DJs, of color as well as of not of color, but just to be able to support the music universally. It's the aspect that I'm bringing is a vinyl, using vinyl as a speaking tool in regards to playing music, and of course most of our house artists are now starting to slowly transition back to vinyl, and so this is a great opportunity for me to be able to allow some of the artists and actually people who've been collecting for over 20, 15, 30 years. Me, myself, I've been collecting for over 35 years, buying vinyl. So it's so many people in the, out here with massive collections, especially for black Americans, to say the least. But just to be able to support our craft and represent it in a proper light. And this is a great opportunity for me to do so.
We appreciate that perspective. It really is important that we have entry and some creative license, certainly, because this is a craft. This is an art form that we are all participating in. One of the reasons I got involved with the genre is exactly what you were talking about, Rod, and a little bit of what you were talking about, Mellowman, in that when you recognize there's a gap, you have to step in that gap. And so, I don't know, 30 some odd years ago, I stepped in as the first publicist representing the narratives of these creators, like both of you. And, since then, social media has really taken over and is a platform that artists and creators are all taking ownership of. And in my opinion, we see some of the rise of new creators really attributed to the rise of social media. There's some good and bad with that, but I'd be curious about each of your thoughts, and I'm going to go to you, Rod, first on social media, the narrative that can be created there, and how far can we, African American, Hispanic, Latinx, Latin creators of house music, where are we in that ecosystem, and why can't we use that to change the game? You're muted, Rod.
Sorry about that. When I'm back, that's a good point. One of the major things that one of the taglines that we have is we talk about that really house music was a resurrection of disco, which was a genre of music that was considered too black, too Latin, too gay back in the 70s, and was kind of met with this visceral response from the majority back in the late 70s, particularly 1979 with Disco Demolition Night. But one thing that happened at that time, and I think this is something that is not very talked about, was the fact that the DJ play of these records, they were creating these hits outside of the music system, outside of the radio system, outside of the big promotion system for these labels. And DJs in these clubs were able to make these hits from these Latin artists, these Black artists. And that shook up the system a little bit. It's very similar right now today, where you have a situation where you can go directly to people through social media. You can make tracks, create songs, and take it straight to people. You have like different, you have different channels and mediums where, SoundCloud and Mixcloud, you can create your thing and just put it out there. And I think that's very similar to what kind of started in the beginning of house music and in disco, because you can actually get a large following of people outside of that regular system that was, really controlling. And so I think what we're seeing is almost a reprisal of what was happening back then, when it was kind of like the Wild Wild West of disco, when everybody was making a disco record. And so it has, in that sense, I think it has its ability to do well. But by the same token, as what happened in the 70s as well, it was oversaturated. So anything that they made that they put slap disco on it, they tried to shuttle it off as disco, you'll get like a disco duck by Rick Dees. And so you got to balance that with some really complex, disco music, the soul disco music, like Down to Love Town with the originals, or Free Man by South Shore Commission, that has really have complex arrangements. And so I'm seeing sometimes you might get, and I'm closing that you'll see some of that with social media. People just throw stuff out there, regardless of the quality. And so I think when you can get someone like a Martin Garrix, who can make a song in his basement with his computer and get 10 million hits, he's 16, he becomes the face of dance music. There are some pluses and some definitely some minors about that.
Absolutely. No, you make some incredible points. And what we often talk about is that this is a business, and much like any business, particularly when it comes to art forms, there are challenges in conflict with craft and creativity versus monetization versus you know, what the public consumer really wants and is ready to consume. So, you know, we are always at this crossroad, it seems, but that's why we have the Vintage House, because we want to control the narrative. We want it to be a firsthand narrative, not necessarily be in control of the narrative, but we want it to come from those who have given birth to the genre, those who are here sustaining the genre, and those who are looking toward the future of propagating house music beyond where it is today. We're getting ready to wrap up because we've got our next Street Beat DJ in the building. But I wanted to hear from DJ Mellowman about when and where people can check you out. And then Rod, the same. We want to hear from you about where people can experience the Woodstock of House. But Daryl, you go.
Well, I definitely will be starting my new residency at Nocturne 4810 North Broadway, March 20th, with a guest DJ, Mr. Hunter Vita, very skilled young man. Definitely looking forward to doing that every third Sunday of the month. That will be starting at 7 p.m. until and then also too, I do a monthly stream called Vinyl Speaks. I just celebrated 5 years of doing that, streaming live from Gramophone Records, I believe 2843 North Clark, with a very good friend and proprietor, Mr. Michael Serafini, who's allowed me to come in and promote promote the music, be able to play vinyl again, because it, with technology, it basically made it very convenient to play music. But for those who collect vinyl and this and that, when you go to the clubs, they don't have 12s, they don't have turntables, and so you have people who have storage facilities, basements full of records, and no opportunity to play them. And a lot of music has not been converted over to MP3 or WAV. So it's still a lot of music that still has not been heard.
Clearly, you're an advocate and a champion for vinyl and getting that music out and getting it heard. I want to ask Rod in our final minutes if you would tell us where, for those who haven't seen it yet, where can they experience the Woodstock of House, the documentary?
And it's been such a blessing. Right now, we are in what we call a festival, film festival circuit run. It should be ending in early May. The next available date is coming up, I believe, in April with the San Diego Black Film Festival. They had moved their date to April, so you can check it out through them. They're not sure if it's going to be a virtual component or if it will simply be a hybrid festival where they actually have people there. But certainly we can go in and we also are waiting to hear back from the Pan African Film Festival, which is in Los Angeles, and that will be in May of this year as well. So keep looking. I just want to thank all of the fans from Chicago, all around. We've been to many film festivals. We've won People's Choice Awards, Audience Awards, 4 or 5 of them. And so kudos to you, and big shout out to all my fellow producers, Tressa Epps, Stephen Tolles, my co-director, Vonda Page, producer as well. I co-directed with Senor Smith, my daughter Ayana Wimberly, who actually was a co-writer on it with us, and the chosen few. Alan, Terry, Tony, Andre, Mike Dunn, and obviously Wayne and Jesse. They have changed music history, and it's just a blessing to be able to be part of this movement and part of this history. And that's what people have been really thanking us for showing the history of it. And it is history.
Rodrick Wimberly, co-producer of the Woodstock of House, Daryl, DJ Mellowman, resident at Le Nocturne, Jermaine Man Mega. Thanks all for tuning in to another episode of Vintage House with these incredible guests, celebrating Black History Month, also celebrating my birthday on Sunday.
Happy birthday, bro.
Sunday. It's always a pleasure to make another trip around the sun and to continue this important work along with my partners in the Vintage House Show, my co-host, DJ Lori Branch, our executive producer and historian, Lauren Lowry. Signing off for another week. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday, 10 p.m. for another episode of Vintage House, or check us out at vintagehouseshow.com. Everyone be safe and enjoy. Remember, house is a feeling. Peace.
God bless you all.
Hey.